All right. So, have you ever played a CTF and thought to yourself, man, I wish we could do this at work? Or, this is fun, but it's too much of a gimmick. Well, today I'm going to show you how to design enterprise-friendly games for the software development lifecycle, bringing insights from 3 success stories in the industry. Why, you may ask? Well, I'm a strong believer that security awareness programs should be, first of all, fun, and also companies want to constantly improve their internal security posture. Few words about myself. I'm going to keep this short. I work in R&D, and as a consultant, my work spans multiple topics. In parallel, I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of the Armed Forces in Munich. I live and work there. Oktoberfest, yeah, you know it. Also, important note, I'm there as a civilian. This professional journey has been riddled with offensive knowledge building, and I've gathered a few certifications along the way. And related to the talk today, a topic which I hold close to my heart because you see the subtitle there, I'm a nerd. I'm an AppSec trainer. What does this mean? I've conducted more than 20 workshops with over 300 participants, and I've learned to see what makes security awareness stick for software developers. Okay, back to the topic. Let's look at the important question. Why bother with serious games? Well, a few reasons for that. So, by the end of this talk, you will have a few takeaways. You will know how to balance fun and learning while prioritizing usefulness, and you will learn to supercharge your AppSec programs with sensible gamification. I will give you some design guidelines to build your own educational games with a proven strategy for impact. Once again, I brought some success stories from the industry. I'm going to show you some insights in just a second. Okay. How do our AppSec workshops look like? Well, we first have a classroom setting, so we have a sort of secure coding masterclass. And what ingredients do we put in it? So this is a funnel. First, we have the usual security awareness stuff. We show people common vulnerabilities, malpractices, mitigation strategies. You know the drill. Also, we have hands-on exercises, meaning after each block of introducing a new topic, participants get the chance to try out what they were presented, mess around, break stuff, learn, essentially. And important ingredient as well, we have demos. And in the demos, we essentially show what could go wrong. One may say, so what if I don't validate my user inputs? And then we bring up a demo where we show like a complete system takeover. Also, you're welcome to bring in your own secure coding workshops, your own company's secret sauce, such as internal guidelines, local policies, industrial guidelines, and so on. But for the focus of this talk, our secure coding masterclass, after the classroom setting, we reserve a full day for what is essentially a capture the flag event. We have serious games which are built in-house, and they're the focus of this talk. And essentially, participants get a full day to compete against each other, apply what they learned, and at the end, you get an empowered workforce. You know the saying, happy wife, happy life? Well, I say happy devs, fewer threats. Let them play a little. Okay, how do you instrument an AppSec training? So, usually trainings are boring, rigid, mandatory, you know, you click through stuff, death by PowerPoint. They don't really have hands-on. Length is an issue, so on. And trainees usually want the opposite. And this is what we try to bring. And with serious games, there's an elephant in the room. I skipped the definition. In short, serious games are just games with another purpose other than just entertainment. So in this case, they're educational games. What arguments support gamification? Well, kids learn best while playing. Adults too, I would say. They just forgot, or not even forgot. They're just not given the chance anymore. On the other hand, what doesn't support gamification? Well, if you have too much game and too little serious, that's an issue. It's not really enterprise friendly. If you have the opposite, well, we're back at the usual training scenario, and we also don't want that. Okay, all nice, but money. Who invests in this stuff? The Charter of Trust, if you've heard about it, it's a global initiative started by Siemens, the company I work at, which aims to bring secure digitalization for the future world. And one of the pillars in this Charter of Trust is education. So how do we train our professional for ensuring this security level? Apart from Siemens, there's lots of big names here. Probably you work for some of them, probably you know all of them. And if you want more bullet points about why this is relevant, I've included a study. You're free to consult it for more details. Okay, so far we've looked at the why. Why are we using serious games? Let's look at how we're building the serious games. And for this, there's some design guidelines, which I promised for you. So first of all, we can start with some general requirements. So, of course, we work with industry standards. We have guidelines. We live on a certain continent with its own local regulations. So you should keep this into account. Your secure coding guidelines should be mandated by the standards and laws specific to you or your client. And you should also incorporate guidelines from industry-specific standards. Working in industrial control systems, 62443 is essentially a household term. As far as the game themselves, as far as the game design itself, there's a few requirements to keep in mind, and I'm going to start from the end. So what do we want to teach these people? And for this, as far as learning objectives go, you should have some clearly defined learning goals. And again, this is about the software development lifecycle. You should keep defense in focus. And what should we emphasize for achieving this? First of all, awareness. You're probably tired of this word. So this is essentially answering the question, how do I spot the vulnerability? You can't fix what you can't see. So let's start there. And also, how do I fix it? And every person is unique. Every person has a different skill set. The exercises we build start from 101s, tutorials, basic stuff, and they advance slowly in difficulty until you get to kind of like a good luck type of level, just to give something for everyone. And with this, we match the participants' skill levels. There's more design guidelines, but that would be an other presentation in and of itself. I invite you to read the full paper if you're curious. However, I'll only mention, since we're focusing about defense, you should avoid specific hacking tools. So even though you want to show, like, if you reverse engineer a binary, you get to hard-coded credentials, you don't want to really get people to get familiar with Ghidra if they only use it with you that one day and then they forget about it. Okay? Now, let's put this all together. Let's look at the past successes we've had with our serious games. But before that, I'm going to show you something which you can deploy today, tomorrow, with minimal effort, with open source components. So you have CTFD, which is a dashboard for capture the flag events. It's open source. And you have the OWASP Juice Shop, which, for those who don't know, it's a vulnerable web application which you are invited to hack through and do stuff like log in as an admin, even though you don't know the admin password, exfiltrate secret data, stuff like that. And you can instrument a workshop like this, giving people an introduction of the platforms, solving a few example challenges, letting them play for the day, and wrapping up with a conclusion, a series of conclusions where you bring together the lessons that the people should take home from this event. Okay? Didn't I just say emphasize defense and now I talk about hacking again? Well, back to the games we developed in-house. I'm going to start with Sifu. So this is a standalone web application. It's open sourced. You can play around with it yourself. And it's a web application, meaning people don't need to install anything. You just give them the URL, and then and they start using it. Because why waste time in a workshop with getting stuff up and running? Okay, what does the game look like? So you can see here, I've attached a screenshot. You get a vulnerable code snippet, and your task is to patch it. Well, that's kind of a daunting task if you have developers with no prior security experience. So you need some help. And for that, we include hints. So every time you try to submit your solution, this code gets linked, compiled, ran against a massive suite of unit tests, and we essentially check that you patched it the way that it's intended. And because we expect people that they could also do bad stuff, we let them play around. This is sandboxed, so you can't really do bad stuff even if you patch the code with something malicious. And it supports a variety of languages. It's pretty easy to extend. As a little humble brag, during my intern days, I integrated 2 of the languages it supports, and you may notice even infrastructure as code is in there. Maybe it's too technical, right? Right. We have another game. It's called the Cloud of Assets and Threats, CATS for sure. So back when cloud infrastructure was the new kid on the block, educating people about the separation of responsibilities between business and technical levels was a big thing. And for this, we built a tabletop game, so kind of like Magic the Gathering. You have cards. Each card is a defense strategy, and a defense mechanism, and your job is to build with these cards a defense strategy. Once again, you get hints, you get tooltips, you're not left on your own. Missing out something again. Didn't we just lose the part with defensive development? Okay, this is the software development lifecycle. Introducing the duck debugger. So this is my PhD baby. I developed it myself to research how do people do code review? What kind of false negatives slip through? Where should we press harder to show to teach the people where to look for the stuff that the tools don't catch? So what does this game look like? Once again, you get a vulnerable code snippet. Probably, if you look close enough, line 11, you already see a vulnerability in there. What is your task? Well, this time, you only have to leave a comment on the lines where you spot a security vulnerability. And we don't like to leave you alone. We leave you with some guiding questions as a checklist. So if you don't know where to start, that checklist essentially asks you, like, is user input validated? Is an error handled correctly? So on and so forth. And to keep it realistic, we all use pipelines in our work, right? You run tools against it. We've had a few presentations on this already. We include the output of static analysis tools to help you spot vulnerabilities which tools will also catch. I've talked quite a lot. Sounds like a pitch, but let's listen to the actual participants in our trainings. What do they have to say about our game? But as a forward, I want to tell you who is in our statistic population. We target mostly industry professionals, ranging from developers to testers to architects. We've even included pen testers. And apart from this, we also did a few test runs with trainees. So specific to Germany, there's 2 types of educations called vocational school and dual students. Essentially, like you're half student, half intern. At the end, you get a diploma and experience. This is kind of like a shift left at the generational level. So you build your experts in-house, you get them on board. And we found that students also really like this, not just professionals. So the range of application is broad. We can introduce multiple demographics in this. Okay, focusing on my duck debugger, we can look at a few design elements. So Q1, do people encounter similar vulnerabilities in day-to-day work? Most of them don't really have an opinion. So more than half say neutral. On the other hand, if you tell them, find me the vulnerability, meaning like hunt for it, there is something there, suddenly it gets better. We jump from Yeah, 36% to 42%, but on the other hand, we also get the polarized results. So 19% disagree, but probably this is also due to the wording. I said easily identify, meaning maybe the people struggled a bit, but they still found it. And important to the design of the game, overwhelming majority finds it usable, and they find the instructions clear. This is very important. And the sample size was pretty large for this survey. Apart from that, going down to the personal level, so like the developers themselves, how do they feel about performing this kind of security-centric review? Well, we find that it really helps with involvement. People can initiate, can delegate, they feel like they participate. It helps with motivation, it helps with teamwork, it helps with significance. People feel competent, people feel like they have impact and they have meaning in their work. Also, knowledge sharing, information exchange is a big topic when it comes to these kinds of things. And I just snuck in this slide. We had 2 workshops last week. I changed the questions a bit. I had only 19 respondents this time, but the results look really good for the latest app version. So overwhelming majority of the people say they learned something new today. They say that the challenges were relevant to their skill level. They found the available resources really helpful. And they say they will transfer these insights into their daily work. Also, the fact that they're challenging is good. I changed it from easily find. And design stays usable. Also, participants also had something to say about this. But I also promised you a demo, so let's look at the duck debugger in practice. 1 second while I switch up my screen. Okay, so clear instructions. We tell them, task, security-centric code review, focus. Find the lines of code with security vulnerabilities, malpractices, anti-patterns. Comments should only be brief, and if you use keywords or acronyms, make sure they're well known. What's out of scope? Well, if you like variables named a certain way, tough luck. This is not the exercise for you. Focus on security. And we collect fully anonymized analytics. This is transparent. It helps us improve the platform as well as its content. We press start and we're ready, and then our interactions get tracked so we know like what gets spotted first, second, last, what gets through, so on. Okay, let's look at what we have at our disposal. So, checklist, okay, it's here. We're not going to use it now. What else? Output from static analysis tools, okay? Let's see. I'm not even checking the code yet, okay? Bear in mind, this is just the tools. Line 18, possible hard-coded password, let me in. Okay, yeah, looks like a password, I can't complain. So I can say here, hard-coded credentials, okay? And the platforms lets you submit multiple times. Every time you submit, your find rate goes up. And we're nice guys, we only ask you to find half, so you can scream in horror while you see what you missed in the other half. The solution gets printed after we solve this. Let's solve it together. Line 19. This also looks like possible hard-coded credentials, right? Line 20. A print statement with printing the secret password, okay. Possible credential leakage. Now we get subtle. We create a table with username, text not null, password not null. What happens if a user has a username with 30 million characters and he creates 100,000 users? That turns into a denial of service pretty quickly. So, possible DOS. Okay, here, once again, our favorite hard-coded credentials. Let's see how far we got. 22%. Okay. I missed line 11, which I showed you in the slide. So this is wildcard course. This is bad. And so on. If you spot something, just yell the number. So this is a relative path. Sorry about that. What else? You can also check the tools. Oh, line 45, that's a juicy one. So this is listening on all ports, and worse, debug in production. Never do that, guys, never do that. Okay, 36.6, what else? We see here some cookie stuff, so this has multiple problems. First problem, that's a bad random number generation. If you need cryptographically secure random numbers, it's not the way to do it. So bad RNG, and not only that, bad security options. Similar to on line 37, who's to say when Flask gets updated that the default values for those parameters stay the same? So you should always specify them in clear. So insecure defaults could be an issue. 45.5. What else? Okay, this is the kind of comment that should never be in source code, so bad comment. And what else? What else? 31. Ah, yeah, the classic SQL injection, staring us right in the face. And like, I know the exercise. The problem is, and you're going to see in a minute, because probably this solves it. So I only found half. This is like the worst, one of the worst exercises in the platform, because it's got 45 lines of code, and if you read through the vulnerabilities, more than half have an issue. So you can read through the example solution and see that like there's so much more you could secure with your code. And this kind of review stuff really helps developers catch each other with this stuff. Okay. And with this, I conclude my presentation, and I leave the floor open for questions.
All right. All right, awesome. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience for Andrei. Feel free to raise a hand, and Mike will present itself to you. Can we get the mic? Can you keep the hand up? Yep. Coming.
Thank you for the presentation. Okay, maybe it's a bit out of scope, but have you considered this type of games for the, let's say, general population in a company? So not for those that are involved in code writing or that sort of stuff, but for the average Joe that has to learn something about cybersecurity in general, and they have to do it maybe in a fun way than rather attending a training, and that's it.
I'm sure there's projects that could be targeting this, but for our department, it was out of scope. We specifically look at activities that can help the software development lifecycle.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there any other question? Feel free to raise a hand. If not, oh, there's one all the way in the back.
Okay. Hi, thanks for the presentation, quite interesting, educational point of view. Have you had the chance to go back to the same group and people? And the question is, yeah, we like these games, we learn a lot on the moment, but how fast they forget?
So about this is kind of out of our hands, because we have business units that order the workshops. People don't really attend the same workshop twice unless there's a large gap between the attendances, in which case the games also change. On the other hand, sure, you can assess a bit the improvement by looking at like how does the code base look in terms of health sometime after.